Hey, everyone. Welcome. We're a little bit early, so I thought I'd give you some time to get into the class. And I'm sorry, I just ran outside to tell something to my husband, so I'm a little short of breath. I don't run much, so I never have to worry about that run with scissors stuff. So I'm going to give us a few minutes to collect our peoples, and let's just make sure you have your prep done. There was so much. I know, you had to start it months ago, but you should have this, the jar portion of your piece painted with green lagoon or something similar to it. I think I gave a mix of a 1.5 parts warm white, 1 part bluegrass green. I love that so many of you are like me. You wait till the last minute to do that prep. So anyway, hi everybody. Oh, cool. Hi, Kathy. Lots of names I recognize. You don't have purple rain. Is there a good substitution? We only use it. Let me see here. I only use it in the background. So just grab if you have purple pizzazz, or you could even use lavender. It's just a little bit of tint of color in the background. So don't even worry about that. Anyway, cool. I'm so glad you're here. And hopefully it looks like we made it this month without too many gremlins. I just looked up and that picture was fuzzy and I went, oh my God, what's going on now? Anyway, so this is it's relatively quick and easy. And so far it's my favorite. I hope that you like it. So hopefully if you got your tissue paper, let's see, should I give you a few more minutes? I'll give you a few more minutes to get in there, but get out your tissue paper. That's one of the first things we're going to work with. And it doesn't have to be white. I was afraid if you used a colored tissue paper, maybe the dye would bleed, but I think it'll be okay. If you have some painter's tape, you want to get that and tape off that top section of the jar. So that way you don't have to be as careful when we do this section. So let's see, what time is it? It's just now 3:00. I can't believe those 2 minutes went really slow. So I hope you all are excited to do this with me. And I promise every month I will get better and better. And the gremlins are here because they keep unfocusing on the thing, but it'll be okay. We'll work through it. We made it through last month, and goodness knows, hey, I can take a minute while y'all are joining in and share with you next month's thing, which is a yard flag. So let's see, let's back off a little bit here. This is a garden flag. It's one of the smaller ones. It's 12 by 18. And if you don't want to put it on a flag, that's fine. You can put it on anything you want. I think Linda from the Chicago area is going to put it on a t-shirt. But this is a garden flag. It's a polyester garden flag. I have them on my website. They're really cheap. And this, it kind of grew on me after a while. At first, I wasn't sure if I liked it, but now it kind of grew on me. So that's going to be December. So it's after Christmas. So you can, clean up the wrapping paper and get out your paints, and we'll paint a garden flag. And then if you want to join me in January, I'm really looking forward to this one. This is Don't Make Me. And it's a witch, of course. And let's see if we can get a little closer on her. So, and it may look really, really, really involved, but that's what the amazing technique of dry brushing can do. It can just make it look like you worked on that forever. And so this is done on a 8 by 10 by 1.5 inch stretch canvas. You don't have to get a 1.5 inch. You can put it on a flat board. You can do whatever you want. But I'm not going to be selling the the stretch canvases, because those you can get pretty easily on Amazon or at Hobby Lobby or Michael's or Joann's or whatever. So you get by easy on this one. The only things that you get from me are the pattern packet, the prep instructions, and the tracing. So I'm really looking forward to starting the year off with her. Anyway, she kind of, I'm looking at this going, that's 2021, and she's not sure about it yet. So anyway, all right. So I think we're ready to get started. How about you? Let's get our tissue paper out. And if you had a big, you still have it in the big old sheet, what you want to do is you want to tear this tissue paper into a square that's big enough to cover your piece. It doesn't have, you don't have to cut it, just tear it. Okay, so get out your tissue paper and just tear it in a big enough piece to cover your project. And I'm going to move my little project over here. And I'm going to go here and do this and do this. So you get out your tissue paper, tear it to fit, and then what we're going to do is we're going to crumple it up. So you want to crumple it up, and I want you to crumple it up and squeeze it really tight. Okay, we want lots of good wrinkles in there. So just go squeeze, 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 make it really wrinkly. If there's a straight part, wrinkle it. Okay, so that little ball, now you can undo it and stretch it out. And it's got all these nice wrinkles and lines in it. Okay, but you know what? I want it crinklier, so I'm going to scrunch it again, just so that I make sure I crinkle in places that didn't get crinkled before. This is the hardest part of this piece, you guys. All right, now I think I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, and it still covers my piece. It doesn't necessarily have to, but that was just a good place to be. So now what you want to do is you want to put out 5 colors. And you want to put out Spice Pumpkin and a pretty good little puddle, maybe $50 size. Spice Pumpkin. You want to put out Margarita. If you don't have Margarita, grab olive green, something, just a bright green. And you want Desert Turquoise. Okay, another splotch of that. Royal Fuchsia, which is a pretty pink, and Purple Rain. No Purple Rain, use lavender, use a darker purple. You don't want to get into like Purple Cow or anything like that. That might be a little too light. So I'm going to set my tissue paper to the side, and I'm going to take a large flat brush. This is a 3/4 inch, somewhere in that. And you can wet your brush. It can be moist, but you don't want to add a lot of water to your paint. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with just a couple colors. I'm just going to slap. Here I'm doing Royal Fuchsia on here. And I'm just going to slap that corner with Royal Fuchsia. And I'm just going to wipe my brush out. And I think I'm going to pick up Margarita and kind of blend it into that. And it's okay if the colors kind of melt together. So I've got a couple of colors here. Now I'm going to take my crumpled tissue paper, lay it on top, and I'm going to rub it and smooth it out. And then I'm going to pull it up, and what you get are these nice kind of texture. My piece is glued down, so you should be able to see some wrinkles and stuff from your tissue paper that's gone into your paint. So what you want to do is you just want to go around and slap color, blend it in to the other colors a little bit. And I always just wipe my brush out and pick up color. And then I'm going to come back with my tissue paper And do this again. And there you go. I'm getting some really nice texture here. I have this part here that's kind of a hard line. It's all right because I can go back and I can slap over it. And again with my tissue. All right, we're getting there. Color haven't I used? I think I've used them all. Maybe I want to go with Margarita down here again. Oh, cool. So you see, you're getting this really nice textured background here. And it doesn't have to take a long time. Maybe a little bit more in there. Okay, I think I want it up here. So you can just play with the colors. Now, I'm not going to worry about this area too much because my pumpkin's going to go on top of that. And there's lots of other stuff that goes on top of it. But I'm loving this texture in the purple and in the royal fuchsia. So you can go back and forth and play with this. And just kind of make a nice blend of colors. And just remember, this is the area you're going to see more. So that's where you want to make sure it's blended out a lot, which I'm not right there. So I'll just come back with some yellow. Okay, cool. I think I like that. So we're going to let this dry. You can go ahead and take this tape off so you can see your nice straight lid. And while we let this dry, we'll do a little bit of work on our lid. And you can throw your dirty tissue paper away so you don't want to get your hands in it or anything like that. So on this lid, you can see that it has little ridges. Let me get a little closer to you. It's just like a jar lid. It has little ridges. So if you want to, you can mark off those ridges with your chalk pencil, or you can just eyeball it and play it by ear. But what we want is we want to get out our base color, which was asphaltum. And you're going to need asphaltum and warm white and soft black. And I'm trying to slow myself down. I tend to go a little quick at the start of any class. This is a really old bottle of asphaltum that I have. So asphaltum, warm white, and soft black. All right, those three colors out. Now you want to get a brush out that you like to dry brush with. And I like to use the Lang-Nichols short rounds. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry brush some highlighting on each little section of this jar lid with asphaltum plus warm white. And I just brush mix that on my palette. There's no need to make a puddle. Just pick up some asphaltum and then pick up some warm white and make a lighter value asphaltum. And then what you want to do is just get some dry brushing on this jar lid to separate those little rims or rings or ridges that are on the jar lid. Okay. All right. So we've done that. Don't wash your brush out, because I can almost bet that I'm going to pick up a little bit more warm white just to make an even lighter value. And I'm going to go back through just the centers area of each of these ridges. Okay, so now you can wash your brush out. And now what we're going to do is we're going to float some shading down the side edges of each side with soft black. So you want to corner load your soft black and blend it out on your palette. And then you're going to pick up, you're going to go to your piece and you're going to float soft black down the side edges. And then I'm going to go to the other side and do the other side. Just a quick and easy float on each one of those little ridges. And then what I like to do, while my soft black is still corner loaded on my brush, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the brush on its chisel edge with the color to the shaded edge, and I'm just going to pull across each one of those little divisions between the ridges, just to reinforce them and make them look like I've shaded in between them, like there's a space there. And then you flip the brush over, and with the color to the outside, you want to go across the other way. Does it have to meet up? If it does, that's fine. All right. We have one more float of shading to do, but we need to let it dry before we do that. Otherwise, we'd wipe out our bottom ridge. So I'll give you a minute or two to get that shading done, and then we're going to put the pattern on for our little guy. So let me back up here. And of course I didn't put my tracing in, so I need to get that. So let's do that now. Let's put the pattern on for our little guy. And if you need to, you can go ahead and put the pattern on for the lines that separate the rim from the neck of the jar too. You don't have to put the pattern on for this straw at the bottom. So you just want to put the basic pattern on for your little guy. And I'm going to use my erasable gel pen so I know where I've been. You don't have to put the pattern on for the face just yet. And I always like to put the pattern on for the different sections of the pumpkin. I like to make these separations here, even though he's going to be all based in Spice Pumpkin. It's nice if you use shape following strokes to base coat them. So you put the pattern on for the stem and for the pumpkin itself with its section. Okay, cool. Now we will go ahead, after you get your pattern on, and we'll give our pumpkin one coat of Spice Pumpkin, just so that we can have that on there. And we'll go back up and finish the lid. So you want to, as large a brush as you feel comfortable base painting in, you want to, don't water down your paint. The brush can be wet, but don't water down the paint. You want to go in and give him a coat of spiced pumpkin. So I'm just going to follow that shape a little bit. Get my ridges. I always do that. Okay. So get that little thing next to his stem. So if you use a big brush, it doesn't take you as long. I'm going to do this other little thing right here next to his stem. Finish that out. There is a lot of stuff that goes on top of this guy, so two coats is going to be enough. It doesn't matter if it's not completely opaque, because so much goes on top of it you won't even know. So I'm really glad you didn't pay to watch me base coat, right? I can get away with having you base coat in a free class. You really didn't need to base coat because we had to do that background. I hope you're happy with your backgrounds. And it especially comes to life when you get your pumpkin on there. All right, there we go. One coat of spiced pumpkin on Jack. So I'm washing out my brush. And I'll give you a minute or two. And then we will go on and go back and work on this top a little bit. Let me check comments and see what's going on. Awesome. Ooh, we got people from all over here. I thank you so much for joining me. All right. Well, I said we were going to go back to the lid, but let's go ahead and grab our Punchinello. And Punchinello is that sequin waste that I like to use for to add interest to the background. And if you have something else you want to use to add some interest, if you don't have Punchinello, you can use something else. You can drywall tape, drywall joint tape, anything you have, a little stencil with a small design. You don't want a big design back there. But what we're going to do is we're just going to stencil some random clusters of dots in a couple of places, at least 3 places, on our piece, just to add some more interest to that background. And we're going to do that with warm white. And you already have that out on your palette. I like to use the cosmetic wedge to stencil with. And so I just load some warm white paint on the fat edge of that and pounce it out on my palette to remove it, just like you would your stencil brush, to remove a lot of the paint because you don't want it gushing through. And so I'm just going to go to my piece here and stencil a little bit of dots on the background. And that helps to soften your background too. All right. And one more place because you have to have 3. So I'm going to go over here. All right. I think that looks good. If you wanted to add more, you could. You could put some down here in this corner or wherever you want it. But at least 3 places you need to add this. And that was with warm white. Okay. Let's go back up and finish our top now. So I said there was one more place that we needed to float shading, and that's going to be on the lower edge next to the rim of the jar. And that's floated with soft black. I think if I say the words really slow that I'm slowing down. I'm probably not, but so just a quick float of soft black across the bottom of that jar lid. Okay. And then if you have a larger round brush, what we're going to do is we're going to line some brighter highlighting on those ridges in the jar lid with warm white. Don't add any water to your brush. Just pick up some warm white and then kind of, let's see, just kind of wipe it off on your palette till it kind of drags a little bit so you get more of a dry brushed effect. And you're just going to do that across each of the rims. All right. And that makes it even look more like it's curved. So all I did was a round brush. I loaded some warm white and I kind of wiped it off on my palette until it kind of grabbed and was dragging a little bit. And then I just kind of dry brushed a stroke of warm white across each ridge on the lid. And then we can call the lid done. Now, our pumpkin. How are we doing? Am I going way too fast? I probably am. Oops, I'm late. Yes, you will be able to watch this later. You can watch a replay right here on Facebook, on my Facebook page, and I also will add it to my YouTube channel. I have lots of videos on my YouTube channel, and when you go to YouTube, you just search Sandy LaFleur, and you'll come up with my page and find all the videos I have available. So we are going to go back, and we are going to float some shading with black forest green. So you want to get out black forest green. That's lamp. And what we're going to do is we are going to float shading all the way around our pumpkin. We haven't given him a second coat yet, and that's okay because we want to do the shading first. We're going to go all the way around our pumpkin and the stem with black green. So back up a little bit, I think. Oh, no, that's going forward. I got a remote control. I can't tell which way I'm going yet. So all the way around the pumpkin and the stem, we want to float some black green. Now, if you like to mop your floats out to make them look soft, you want to have a mop brush handy, which I had one. Now I don't know what I did with it, but I got another one. If you're like me, you have a ton of other brushes. So let's go all the way around on the background, around this pumpkin with black green, just to pop him off the background a little bit. And so if you like to soften, you can soften that float a little bit. I just want you to know I'm really enjoying designing these projects for this. I know everybody's painting Christmas, but I'm still thinking Halloween. I have the idea and the woodcut for February's. So I should have that available in the next couple of weeks too. So all the way around. You can see I am a pity pat floater. I don't like to just do one long float. I like to play with them, soften them. when you get these little V areas, like where the stem and the pumpkin come together, you want to widen those floats out and kind of round them a little bit, just to give them a little more depth, and it just softens the hard corners. Thinking I should have put wine in my cup instead of just Diet Coke. Maybe that would mellow me out. Okay, so we've got that shading all the way around my pumpkin. And now I'm going to float some shading under this lid. Same color, Black Forest Green. I'm going to go right across the top of the jar, under the lid. And then I'm going to go across, down the sides of the jar and across the bottom. So when you go down the sides, that means you're going to go in these little, in this neck, in this the rim, in the neck, and just bring it all the way around and down the sides. Are you liking it so far? It's starting to look cute. Let's go across the bottom. And I'll go up the other side. Back to under the rim. So I've gone all the way around the jar part. Then I'm going to go also a couple more places. This notched out part I call the rim. And so what I want to do is I also want to float black green along the bottom of that rim. So if you're brave, you can just freehand it. Across the bottom of the rim. And then I also want to float across the top of the jar. So that's going to leave that little space of the neck of the jar that didn't get floating on it except at the outside edges. So now I'm going to come and go across the top of the jar just to make you see the neck so you know it's there. Right. Looking good, guys. As if I could see you. You guys are so lucky that I can't see you, because as it was pointed out earlier in the week, if I can see you, I have the opportunity to pick on you. And I always do that in one class. I always pick one person to pick on. Okay, so now we can go back and we can give our pumpkin another coat of spiced pumpkin. And if you have a hair dryer handy or a heated craft gun, something like that, that would come in really handy. So because we want to dry this and get the pattern on for our pumpkin's face. So give him another coat of spiced pumpkin. Oh, it's so much nicer not having gremlins messing with the cameras. I should shut my mouth, really. That was probably not a wise thing to do. I probably just invited them in. Here we go. Let's get this guy based in. So if you got your shading on your pumpkin a little bit, this is where you can clean that up. Oops, I got some margarita in there. Oh, well, it'll be okay. Okay. And I'm going to get out my Ranger heated craft gun and dry my piece. It's looking cute already, I must say. But I'm kind of prejudiced. So that's dry enough for me. So I'm going to very lightly sand that a little bit. Just to smooth it out. And the next thing you're going to do is put the pattern on. And you put the pattern on for his eyes and his mouth, and put the pattern on for those sections again. And while we do that, I'm going to go over here and check and see if there are any questions I need to answer. Okay, I'm not finding any. And thank you for saying I make it look easy. If you knew how nervous I was, my little knee is just bouncing. Anyway, so there we go. Let's get our pattern on for our face and the section. The mouth, if you want to, you can put the pattern on for all those little things, but I just put a straight line. And the eyes, I just trace the triangle. You don't necessarily have to trace everything else on there. All right. Now it's starting to look like Halloween. Now let's see. Well, I'm glad you like the jar lid. What do you mean it makes you want to paint, Danita? You should be painting already. It's okay, Susan. You'll be able to watch the replay. All right, so how are we doing? We got our pattern on. Time for me to take a little swig. Put some things away. So we are going to dry brush some highlighting on our pumpkin. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to knead out these colors. We're going to need golden straw, country red, burnt umber, and warm white. So, got warm white. I need golden straw. And country red. All right, so get those 4 colors out on the palette. And we are going to dry brush highlighting on our pumpkin. We're going to treat each section as its own individual section, so it's not one big dry brush. And we're going to do that first with golden straw. And again, I like to use the Langnickel short round sables to dry brush with, but please use whatever brush you're comfortable and you have the most success dry brushing with. It doesn't hurt to try new brushes, but if you have something that you have a good comfort level with, just go with that. You don't want to make it harder on yourself than it needs to be. So I'm going to dry brush this highlighting through the center of each section. And that means what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up here at the top on this section on the left. You can start either side. And as I go down, the section gets a little bit wider, so my dry brush through the center is going to get a little bit wider. I'm going to do that all the way down to the very bottom. Okay, so then I'm going to go and I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other side. You also want to get a little bit of dry brush in those little sections that are on either side of the stem. It's just a touch dry brushing. So then I'm going to go on this side and do the same thing. And then I'm going to go through the middle. When I go through the middle, I'm just going to dry brush right through that pattern I put on. It'll be okay, and it's easier than trying to avoid. So the middle is kind of wide. It is wide. It's not kind of wide. It is wide. So this dry brush is going to be wider. I have to pick up some more paint. Okay, so that's looking good. All right, he's in puberty right now, so don't worry about how he looks right now. As we shade and everything, these highlights will tone down a little bit. So you can wash your brush out, but you want to dry it really good because we're going to come back and do some more dry brush highlights in a little later. Or if you're lucky enough to own several brushes to dry brush with, you want to have a nice dry brush when we come back and highlight again. So we are going to float shading on our pumpkin with country red. And I know that sounds weird, but that's the way I always do my pumpkins. I always start out with some kind of red as the first shade. So with country red, side load, blend it out really well. You don't want it to be like a line of country red. You want it to be a nice soft float. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to float on the outside. These sections of the pumpkin are called flutes. So we're going to float shading on the outside flutes next to the center flute. So I'm going to start up here by the stem, and I'm going to float country red down this section. So I'm on the outside right flute, and I'm floating this country red next to the center flute. And then I'm going to come back. I'll turn my little guy around, and I'm going to float on the other flute, outside flute next to the center. I was told years ago that I do orange well. I've never forgotten that. So I take pride in my orange pumpkins. Okay, so I've shaded next to the center on both those outside flutes. I want to touch a little bit of this country red shading on these little sections of the pumpkin next to the stem and next to the flute. So they basically kind of get tinted country red. So next to the flute that's in front of it and next to the stem. And then again with country red, what I want to do is I want to round out the top and the bottom of this pumpkin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to float country red in the bottom of each flute. And the way I'm going to do that, it's going to be like kind of like a big C-stroke float. I'm going to start up on the side a ways, about halfway through this lump that sticks out. And I'm going to float country red in the bottom of that flute. And I'm going to stop when I get to the center. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the center. I'm going to start about halfway up that larger, wider section. And I'm going to float country red in the bottom. And this is going to come all the way back up to the other side about halfway up. And you can mop and soften that float if you need to. And then again, on the other side, you want to start about halfway up and float along the bottom and stop when you get to the center. We're going to do the same thing to the top of each flute. We're going to float country red in the top of each flute the same way that we floated it in the bottom. So I'm going to start a little ways down and come up and stop, and you can tuck a little float on the top of the little sections that are behind the stem. What's nice is you don't have to worry if you get on the stem because we haven't painted it yet. And then I want to load the right side of my brush, not the clean side. And I'm going to do the center section the same way I did it at the bottom. And that's just going to round each of those sections out a little bit. Cool. Well, you want that to dry a little bit. So get out your little hair dryer or something, or blow on it, or wave a fan on it, whatever you need. If you don't have a hair dryer or a little Ranger heated craft gun, these are on Amazon. It's well worth the $25 that you need. It doesn't get so hot that you're going to burn the hair off your hands or bubble your paint, but it dries things quickly. I don't get any money for it if you buy it. Just make sure you buy the American one, not the European. All right, so everywhere that we shaded country red, we are going to go back and shade again with burnt umber. So let's see here. Check. All right. Cool. Looks like we're doing good. All right. So we're going to take our burnt umber again and side load float. There goes my knee again. And everywhere we just shaded with country red, we're going to shade again with burnt umber. So down the side flutes next to the middle. Okay, and soften that out a little bit. I love the way the burnt umber looks on top of the country red. And then I'm going to go on this other side flute next to the middle. We're going to go on the bottom of these flutes, that C-stroke float again to round them out. And do the center section, big C-stroke float. Oops, loaded the wrong side of my brush again. That must be the theme for today. Gonna do that other side. And across the tops, just like we did before. Very nice. All right, so everywhere we shaded with country red, we went back and shaded with burnt umber. And you might say you could have just gone with burnt umber to begin with, but I like the red, that the color that it adds to the pumpkin by having the country red beneath the burnt umber. So remember I said we were going to dry brush some brighter highlights. So we are going to do that now, and with warm white. And basically I'm going to dry brush these highlights in the top of each flute and in the bottom of the flutes. It doesn't go all the way down. It just goes in the tops and the bottoms. So straight warm white, a dry brush. And we're just going to pop up that highlight in the top of each flute. Now the center flute gets a little bit more because it's a little bigger. And let's go to this side. And then we want to pop up the highlight in the bottom a little bit. Some of this is going to get covered by the straw, but it's okay. It still needs to be there. Okay, awesome. We're doing really well. I did shade country red on the center bottom and the center top, and then I shaded it back with burnt umber. All right. So now what we are going to do is we are going to paint the eyes and the mouth in with with soft black. The mouth, of course, is just a line, but you want to make it a thick enough line so that you can line a highlight on it. So soft black, we had that out already once. We used it to shade on our lid. So let's just paint in our eyes. If you need to put the pattern back on, you can do that real quick. One coat should do. You don't need to mess with a couple of coats. And I use soft black because lamp black would have been a little too harsh. Soft black blends in with the color palette really well. And then our other eye. Again, you get to watch me base coat. And then his mouth. And we're gonna line that nice thick line across. Just nice straight. Doesn't have to be real straight. And then it's barbed wire is what it's supposed to be. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your liner brush with soft black and kind of decide where the middle is. You're just going to paint little C strokes, little C's, not really strokes, just little C's, 3 of them, to make those little sections. And then you're going to go not all the way to the end, just a little bit off the end, add another section. And then I'll go over here and do one. So 3 little C's. And then it has the little barbs sticking out of those. So don't make them like perfect little X's, because that's not how I don't know if you've ever tangled with barbed wire, but that's not how they are. So you just want to take your liner brush and some thinned soft black and line some little barbs coming out. And they don't all come out of the middle. They don't, just think like barbed wire if you can. Don't make them too short, because trust me, when they get you, they feel like they're about a foot long. I've learned now to avoid barbed wire. All right. Give you a little minute to catch up with that. And I will accept comments. Brushes. Well, I usually use Royal Langnickel brushes, but I did buy some King Art brushes off of Zulily, actually, so I could give them a try, and I'm really, really liking them. So those are the brushes I'm using right now. So you have Desert Turquoise and Royal Fuchsia on your palette. And what we want to do is we want to dry brush, and I said 2 colors, and now I'm going to tell you to use a different one. We're going to dry brush a little bit of Golden Straw inside the center of each eye. So make sure your dry brush is dry. And we're just going to dry brush just a little hint of Golden Straw inside this eye. It's not a lot. Okay, almost kind of makes them look creepy already. And then wash your brush out. Sometimes I forget to tell the class to do that, and they sit there and wait for me to tell them. So I remembered this time. All right, let's get out lamp black. Let's get out some lamp black too. Just a little bit of lamp black. We're going to have to paint the pupil in a minute. So what I want to do is I want to take my liner brush with Golden Straw, and again, just like we did that dry brush highlight here up on the top of the jar lid, I want to do that with Golden Straw and my liner brush. I'm just going to line the long side on the left and the bottom edge. And you see it ran out of paint. And I ran out of paint. That's okay. That's what you really want. So liner brush and Golden Straw. And just, kind of wipe it out on your palette so it's not too much paint. And I'm going to start in the bottom corner. And I flatten my brush out. I don't know if you can see that. I flatten my liner brush out so it has a square edge. And I'm going to just line across the bottom. And then I'm going to do this one. I'm going to line across the bottom. And if it runs out of paint, that's perfect. If it doesn't, that's okay. But running out of paint is perfect. So if you want to be perfect. And then the same thing I'm going to do with this long left side. I'm going to start in that bottom corner. And I'm going to pull up until I run out of paint or get to the tip. Same thing on this smaller eye. Start in that bottom corner and go up. Cool. There we go. Wash your liner brush out. And let you get those edges in there. You need 20 minutes to catch up? Sorry. I'll try to slow down some more. Let's, there's a C-stroke float inside each eye. It kind of sits down in the bottom there on top of that yellow that we just put in. And that's with desert turquoise. So side load your flat brush with desert turquoise. And let's add a couple of C strokes in this eye, in each eye. My nose is itching. I want it to be a little bit more, stronger. So I'm going to float this one again. Okay. Oh, I was supposed to add a little warm white to that. So we can float it again. That should give you a little time, Jennifer. Just pick up a little bit of warm white and blend it into your turquoise blue. It helps if I read my directions. And I'll just do a little bit brighter. The turquoise would have been just fine. There we go. Now we're going to paint the pupils in the eye. And if you look at your picture, they're set kind of in the middle of the bottom of the blue stroke and the top, and they're ovals. They're not little round circles. You can make yours round, but I painted little lamp black ovals for the pupils. And if you're lucky, you don't even really have to paint them. You can just set your brush down. But I have to paint them. I'm not that lucky today. Okay, cool. I've got some pupils. Each pupil has a warm white highlight, and that's just a dot of warm white in the top of each pupil. You can do it with your brush. You can do it with a stylus. You just have to promise to keep your hands out of it. All right. That looks good. How about if we give him some cheeks? I think that's a good idea. He's got a couple of little cheeks. And those are with Royal Fuchsia. And it's a dry brush. If you want, you can wash them on if you like to do them that way. And the cheeks set right up above the mouth and below the eyes. So nice round Royal Fuchsia cheeks. And they're pretty big. So don't give him puny little cheeks. Okay, don't wash your brush out. Pick up a little bit of warm white for a lighter value Royal Fuchsia. And you want to just dry brush a little bit of a highlight on the top of each cheek. Just to make you see him a little bit more. Cool. He's looking good. So we are going to go to the line highlighting on his mouth. So you're going to line a highlight first with soft black, which is the color it was painted with, and add some warm white, and you get kind of a browny gray looking color. And it's your liner brush. So you just want to line a little highlight across the mouth. You want to stop when you get to those little C strokes that you made. And then you're going to highlight each of those little C strokes. So you do 3 little strokes on that mouth, on those little C strokes with that soft black, warm white mix. And then you also want to pick up a little more warm white on your dirty brush, blend it in a different area. Don't blend it back in that puddle, first puddle you made, because you want this to be really lighter. And you're going to go back and line a little bit brighter highlight. And it's not going to cover as much as that first little highlight you did. You still want to be able to see that first highlight under there. So like these little C strokes, you're basically just going in the middle of them. And then you also want to line a little highlight on the barbs. Now we're going to float some highlighting around his eyes and his mouth. And that is going to be with golden straw. You're going to corner load, and blend it out. You want it to be nice and soft. So blend it out really well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on this outside edge and across the bottom of the left eye, outside edge and across the bottom of the right eye. So just a highlight, just to make them pop out a little bit more. So outside edge and across the bottom. And I'm going to turn this around so I can do the other side. Here I'm going to go across the bottom and up the outside edge. And then I'm also going to do this above his mouth. And I'm basically going to go up and around those little C strokes, but I'm not going to worry about the barbs. So just a nice soft float of golden straw above the mouth. And that just makes that just a little bit more popped off his face. Blend that float out, mop it out a little bit. Cool. Let's back up. I'm so glad you like this project. So we are going to paint the stem, and that's going to be painted with burnt umber. And we're going to work on it while it's wet. We're going to add the highlights and the shading. So let's paint it. I'm going to get a round brush, and I'm going to paint my stem with burnt umber. And that's the lighter brown that's on your palette. So, and if the top edge is a little rough, that's okay. Stems are rough. Right. So now this stem is still wet. My brush is still dirty. And so I'm going to pick up a little golden straw on my dirty brush, and I'm going to stroke some highlighting from the top edge down. And I left a little bit of space at the top to make it look like it was a broken edge or a cut edge. So just pick up some golden straw on your dirty brush and just stroke highlighting from the top down. Then just wipe your brush out. You don't have to clean it. And pick up a little soft black. And you can stroke the shading in the same way from the bottom up. And drag it into the highlight a little bit here and there. Easy peasy. Your stem is done. Nobody's going to be looking at the stem anyway. You're going to be looking at Jack. Okay, how are we doing? Do I need to give you a few minutes? I know there's some of you out there that are painting 2 or 3. Of the stem, I used burnt umber. I painted it with burnt umber. And while it was still wet, I picked up golden straw on my dirty brush, and I just stroked it from the top down so that I got kind of like ridgy looking. And then I wiped my brush out, and I pulled soft black from the bottom up again. So I'm going to give you a few minutes, or I say a few minutes, but I don't. I'll give you a minute or so, and we're going to work on the straw that's in the bottom of the jar. Anyway, you see how that background just, the colors just pop now that you have this orange pumpkin on top of it? I don't know. I just love it. I should use this background on more things. So the straw in the bottom of the jar is easy peasy. So easy. You're not going to believe it. You're going to take your flat brush, and you're going to double load it. You're going to load one side in golden straw, and you're going to load the other side into burnt umber, and just kind of blend them on your palette a little bit. And then what you're going to do is you're going to stay on the chisel edge, and I'm going to have the burnt umber towards the bottom. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to set down and kind of stroke some straw, what I'm calling straw, into the bottom there. This first layer is golden straw and burnt umber. Think like straw. Okay. It can be a little curvy. It's going to go all different ways. And this is, if you messed up the bottom of your pumpkin, this is a good way to disguise that. When you get to like the middle, that you start changing directions to go the other way. And reload as often as you need to with golden straw and burnt umber, keeping the burnt umber along the bottom so the lighter golden straw is on the outside edge of the straw. You can get a little closer on that. And then what you can do is you can add the lighter layer, which is going to be golden straw and warm white. My warm white is kind of dirty, so I'm going to get out some clean warm white. So I'm going to load my brush with golden straw, and then I'm going to pick up some warm white and blend it a little on my palette. And then I'm going to start putting in the lighter tufts of straw. This was the easiest way. I could have made you get a rake brush or something and made it difficult, but I wanted to make it easy on you. And you can just use this to fill in wherever. Some of you are going to have very neat straw. It looks like it's been to the beauty shop. There you go. So you can add as much or as little as you want. If you want to fill in more and disguise that hard edge a little bit more, that's fine. If you want to bring in straighter warm white, it's your straw. You do with it what you want. And getting down there. Just stay on the chisel edge and just set down and add some little strokes. So we're going to let that dry for a minute. You want to find your paper tag. I have mine sitting out here. So there it is. So what you want to do with your tag is you're going to fold it in half. And if you have a glue stick or decoupage, you'd even work. You're just going to fold it in half and glue it together. And if you could get your decoupage open, that would work. So, I just went and grabbed a glue stick because I'm not strong enough to open my decoupage today. And let's see, I just want to glue this together. That way I have a tag that's printed on both sides. And you could cut your tag out of anything. It doesn't have to be scrapbook paper. It could be an old paper bag. It can be whatever you'd like. And you're going to need a hole punch, which of course I didn't put out. So you're going to punch a hole in there later on so you can tie it around your thing. But while we let our straw dry, what you want to do then is, if you need to put the pattern on for the lettering, you can do that, or you can just wing it. But you want to use an Identa pen because you have a a thin edge and a thick edge. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lightly outline this tag with the thin edge. It's not perfect. And then I'm going to write my and pet. And then pumpkin. And this is all with the thin edge. And then whatever name you're giving your pumpkin, you want to switch to the thick edge and write his name on there. And then you just punch your hole and you got it ready to hang on your piece. We're not done with the piece yet, but I thought I'd let that straw dry before we moved on. So the tag is really easy peasy. If you screw it up, you can always make another one out of some more scrapbook paper, or you can even buy those little tags that are already done. Okay, now let's see. Let's go and finish this jar up. Some final shading and highlighting is what we're going to do next on the jar. And what we're going to do now, we already did this once with black forest green, but I want to do it again. If you have a larger flat brush, that'd be great. But you want to make this float of black forest green a little bit wider than the first float that we did. And we're going to do this down the sides of the jar. You don't have to worry about under the lid or the neck or anything, but down the sides of the jar and across the bottom, you want to float an even wider float of black forest green. So I'm using a 3/4 inch wash to get a nice wide float. And this is going to go cover some of your straw in the bottom. And that's okay. That's what we want. So I'm going to go across the bottom. And it tints some of my straw green, and that's fine. That is exactly what I'm going for. So I'm going to go down this other side. Nice wide float. Awesome. So we want that to dry before we go on with our next little float. So handy dandy hair dryer, fan, or blowing, whatever. You guys, I hope you're as happy with yours as I am with mine. It just looks really cute. I mean, I'm not supposed to say that about my own stuff, but he's turning out really, really cute. So we're going to use Green Lagoon or whatever color it is that you based your jar in originally. So if you have some of that handy, if you don't, mix up some warm white and bluegrass green if that's what you used. And what we're going to do is we are going to float again down the sides of the jar. But this time we're going to treat each little section as its own section. So the rim will get treated as its own section, the neck, and then the jar will get treated as its own section, and if that makes any sense. but we are going to float. It's like a highlight, a green lagoon. And now another thing that you want to know is that this float is just a hair off the edge. So you're leaving just a little edge of that black lagoon showing. Okay, so it's minuscule, but you need to leave it there. So blend out your green lagoon, side load, blend it out. I think I'm going to go to a smaller brush. Going back to my 1/2 inch, I think this is. And green lagoon, side load float. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat this top ridge of the jar as its own section, and I'm going to stay away from that edge a little bit. I'm going to float green lagoon here. See, I stayed away from that edge. In the neck, you want to stay away from the edge, and basically you're just touching your brush in there a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. There's not a whole lot there that you can float, but you do want to touch a little bit of that color in there. And then on the jar itself, what you're going to do is you're going to treat the corners like C strokes. So just like we did on the pumpkin with our floats, we're going to start out here and pull across the top of that jar and then down the side, trying to stay just a hair away from that edge. And you're going to do that all the way down. When you get to the bottom again, you go around that corner and you drag it across a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go to the other side. I'm turning my guy upside down. Again, I'm going to treat the ridge, the rim of the jar as its own section. So I've done that little float in there. And now in the neck, again, just a little float. And then I'm going to go, and this one I'm going to start at the bottom because I like to pull floats towards me. So I'm going to start off the edge, off here a little ways, and come around that corner and all the way up the side, making sure I stay away from that edge just a hair. Okay, and then come around this corner, and I'm going to go pull it across a little bit. All right, so we've gone down the sides. We also want to go across the top and across the bottom with this green lagoon. So I'm going to pick up where I kind of slid across and go across the top. Again, I'm away from the edge of that black forest float that I did earlier. So I'm just kind of connecting them. And again, the same way across the bottom. And yes, you're going right over your straw. That's what you want to do. So basically, all the edges have been floated except for the tops and bottom of the ridge, the rim. Okay, we are almost done, if you can believe it. We've got some highlighting with warm white to do on our jar. And so what we're going to do is dry brush some warm white in this rim, and you're going to walk it out a little ways on both sides. We're going to dry brush some highlighting in the what I call the corners of the jar. So you're going to dry brush a little warm white highlighting in each corner, even down in the bottom here over the straw. So warm white, your dry brush. Start here. I'm going to dry brush in this rim. And I brought it across a little ways. And then I'm going to dry brush on this side, bringing it across a little ways. The neck you can't really get into, so we just leave it the way it is. And here in the what I call the corners, the rounded corners. So all four corners get a little bit of this. And we'll do the bottom corners the same way we did the top corners. Kind of thin at the top and widen out in the corner itself. That just helps to give the illusion that this is he's actually in a jar. All right. There you go. Cool. I'm looking at my directions, seeing if there's anything I missed. And I think we're pretty good. Let me check comments again. And, oh, thank you so much. So basically, the painting part is done on this guy. The only thing you have to do is varnish him, sign him. Don't forget to sign him. Do your little tag. And then tie your tag on with a piece of raffia. And whatever color, I still have some purple left if you need it. Add a little wire hanger and you are good to go. And I just am so excited with this guy. He turned out really cute, if I say so myself. And again, thank you so much for being here. And I hope I see you next month when we do the Boo Boo Crew flag. Remember, it doesn't have to be on a garden flag. It can be on whatever you want. And thank you so much again for joining me. It was fun. It was nice to not have to fight too many gremlins this time. And I just appreciate you so much. And if you have any questions, you can continue to comment and I will go through and answer questions. And yes, this will be available for replay as soon as I'm done. As soon as I end my broadcast here, it will be available. I can't talk. Available for replay right here on the Facebook page. And I will convert it and add it to my YouTube page probably by this evening. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you had a great time. I hope you got close to done. And anyway, just thank you so much and happy Halloween.